I'm Seth Johns, I'm on the ASA national team, and I snowboard hard every day. For complete joint health, I take Arthrolyze Elite. Species Nutrition, what species are you?
IFBB4 Akeem Williams, what species are you?
Welcome inside the RX Muscle Studios in Westbury, New York for another episode of Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by, as always, by Species Nutrition. It is the grand opening of the all-new speciesnutrition.com. Go check it out. Any purchases made from now through April 8th using the promo code GRAND20 will get you 20% off. Also, if you make any purchases of $250 or more, you get a free Species gym bag. So with that, we bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, you broke some big news this morning on Muscle in the Morning. Jay Cutler making a comeback.
Yeah, I don't always do April Fool's jokes, but I said, because I don't usually do them, I might throw people off track a little bit. So I said, yeah, I knew we were going to do a story on Jay Cutler. He was back in the gym, and there was some training footage online. So I said, yeah, let's spice it up a little bit. What if Jay Cutler was making a comeback? Could he kick Sean Roden, Phil Heath, Kai Green, Dennis Wolf's ass, And so we made up a little, I made up a few quotes from Chris Aceto, and we had a little fun with it. And then at the end, Johnny, threw in an April Fool's. The funny thing is we really didn't say what was April Fool's. All the other stories were actually legitimate. So, but I thought it was good. It would be interesting. I'd love to see Jay make a comeback. At 41 years of age, the possibility is probably slim to none. Jay's got too much pride. He wouldn't come back at less than his best, I think. And I wouldn't recommend that he does that anyway. But it's interesting. I should have made a April Fool's joke about Big Ramy, but there's really nothing to joke about because he's that good,
So, Dave, let's start with that. Let's go with a two-part question. Best April Fool's joke that has been done to you, and the best April Fool's prank that you pulled on somebody else.
It's a good question. Probably goes way back. I don't know. I wish I had some preparation to think about this. April Fool's joke on me. I hate having pranks pulled on me. I'll tell you why. Because I have high blood pressure, and I don't need any more stress. So when people, if they call me up from the office and say, a fish died or someone robbed the warehouse, I'm gonna have a heart attack, and then no one's gonna have a job. So it's not good to play April Fool's jokes on me. And I don't think I've had too many. I'm not really a prank puller, so I don't like to do mean or stuff that's gonna stress people out, because to me it's bothersome. When I watch the Jackass movies, while I think some of the stuff is funny, to me it's almost aggravating a little bit. So I don't know. I can't even think of what April Fool's joke was pulled on me.
You've never pulled one on somebody else that was so memorable that you're like, remember the time we did that? And
I can't. I know I pulled one year on my dad when I was a kid. I told him something like the roof collapsed or something like that. I called him up, I think, just to mess with him, and he was going nuts on the phone, and then he screamed at me never to do it again. So I didn't. But I think that was maybe when I was maybe 13 or something like that.
So once again, this is Ask Dave. If you want to join in and ask Dave Palumbo a question, you can join us on the Muscle Central forum on rxmuscle.com. You can tweet using hashtag Ask Dave. You can ask questions on our official Facebook page or on the official Instagram page, instagram.com/official_RxMuscle. And that is where we will begin on our Instagram page. This first question from Joe Benvenuti. Dave, who do you think is the next Mr. Olympia after Phil Heath, besides our boy Akeem Williams, of course?
That's a tough question because, that might be difficult because Phil could win the next 4 or 5, 6 years in a row, in which case it could be someone who hasn't even come onto the scene. Who do I think has got the most potential? Probably Big Ramy. I think that Big Ramy's the biggest threat. That's assuming he can get in shape and bring the look that we know he's capable of. Is he a few years off? I don't know. Chris Aceto said if he had been working with him and continued to work with him, he felt he could have done it this year. I don't know if that's possible, even with whoever will take over the contest prep of Big Ramy. I hear right now it's George Farah. Obviously, you got Kai Green nipping on Phil's heels. I don't think Kai will ever beat him, to be honest with you, unless Phil has an accident or something like that. And Wolf and Roden are right there too. But once again, if one of them beat them, I think people would say, well, it's a good Mr. Olympia, but it's not a spectacular Mr. Olympia. So I think it's going to be an unknown. Justin Compton comes to mind, could possibly in the future be a threat to the Mr. Olympia. We'll have to see how his physique progresses. But I think for now, Big Ramy could still be that wild card.
Let's go to the next question. You can also join us on the live stream live chat box. So if you're watching us there, you can ask your questions on the live chat box, and that's where we'll go. This next question is from King M. Dave, does BCAA stop catabolism? For example, if I'm traveling.
Catabolism would be like the state of breakdown, usually caused by high cortisol levels in the body. BCAAs are not going to negate cortisol levels. If cortisol levels are elevated, it's because your body is stressed out, okay? What could cause stress? Well, traveling can cause stress. A lot of people get stressed going to the airport. Not eating can cause stress. Overtraining can cause stress. There's a lot of reasons that we get stressed out or that cortisol levels increase, thus causing a catabolic state. Probably the most prevalent for people who try to put muscle on is just not eating enough or missing meals. If you're not eating, obviously taking a branched chain amino acid product is probably better than nothing, but it's certainly way better to have a full whey protein isolate shake or a full food meal in place. You can't substitute BCAAs for missing a food. You'll definitely lose muscle and you will create a catabolic state. Now, some people like to use BCAAs right before they train or maybe before bed. Once again, I think that they have a place in the supplement world. For bodybuilders, but I truly believe that that whole food type products or even whole shakes like whey isolates are way better in terms of counteracting the catabolic effects of training and life in general.
Dave, we go to the rxmuscle.com Muscle Central Forum. A good friend of the show, Lil Mama, chimes in. Dave, my question is, why are my muscles really achy at night when I'm trying to sleep? It's pretty bad that it interrupts my sleep. Is it age? I'm about to hit 48 in a couple of months. Or is it just not enough warming up the body, the muscle group that I'm working in the gym before heavy weight training? Or is it that I'm lacking something in my nutrition?
Well, cramping at night a lot of times is due to electrolyte depletion. It could be sodium, potassium. Usually it's sodium, not usually potassium. And if you have enough sodium in your diet and you're cramping, it could be magnesium deficiency. Because a lot of people take calcium supplementation, but they don't take enough magnesium. Or the magnesium they're taking is not absorbable. You could take minerals, but if you don't absorb them, it's like you're taking nothing. So, you get what you pay for. It's the old story. Once again, I always talk about chelated minerals. Take a chelated mineral supplement. That means minerals that are bound to amino acids. We have a product from Species Nutrition called V-Mineralize. All the minerals in there are chelated, meaning they're super absorbable because in the stomach, that's where the amino acids get cleaved off and the minerals get instantly absorbed there. So I would try a chelated mineral product first. However, sometimes, I'm at home and I can't sleep and my legs are squirming and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. I must be getting old. And then I think about it and I did legs the day before or that day. And so, sometimes you just had a hard workout. When you have a hard workout, sometimes the muscles get achy or the nervous system gets a little twitchy and you get those twitchies in your legs. It happens. It's not just age related, but it could be too.
Dave, let's go to our Twitter page. This question is from @Amas B Artist, name Amas Bansal. Dave, what is your take on oligofructose? I saw the fructose bit and thought it was bad, but I see it as a fiber. What say you?
Oligofructose is what we call prebiotic fiber, not probiotic, prebiotic fiber. That means that it's food for the gut bacteria. Essentially, it's a soluble fiber that can act as a food source. So the gut bacteria will eat this up, and so you don't really absorb it. It's not a fiber like I speak about in terms of a fiber that your body is going to have benefits from, like lower cholesterol, or the colon's going to get a good workout from, or it's going to clean out toxins. That's like a psyllium-based fiber, like Fiberlize, like my product Fiberlize would be. But the prebiotic fibers are what a lot of companies are putting into bars now to keep the carb content down, because they do have like a sweet taste to them, but yet not be absorbable carbs. Quest Protein comes to mind. They put a ton of the oligosaccharides, or oligofructose is one of the oligosaccharides, and they put those in there as a flavoring and mouthfeel type of ingredient, but you don't absorb them. So then there's zero net carbs on those, and it's a great idea, I guess you could say, to keep the calorie content and the carb content lower in foods.
Dave, we go back to our Instagram page. We got a ton of questions on our Instagram page, and so we very, very much appreciate that. We go to Mr. C. Shadows. Dave, I have a very interesting question, and I would love for you to answer honestly. It says honestly in caps. What is your take on Boston Lloyd and how he voices his opinions, and what do you think of his physique at the Powerhouse Classic? And he keeps saying Dave. Sorry, I'm just going to say it that way. Does Dave think he could have prepped him differently? He looked pretty good. Kid who took the overall, though, could have beaten a lot of pros. Sorry for the long question.
Well, Boston and I talk, so, he does ask my opinion on things. Doesn't mean he listens to what I tell him, but he does listen to a proportion of, or percentage of what I tell him. I think he's got a good physique. I think that he could be a good bodybuilder if he wants to, but he really doesn't want to be a bodybuilder. He kind of likes to be an extremist. He likes to say what's on his mind. He doesn't care what anyone thinks about him, and you got to respect the guy for that. I mean, there is a certain level of respect. Do I think that he does things that are self-damaging and that are dangerous? Absolutely. But you know what? Me being his father and lecturing to him is not going to do anything. It's not going to change who he is. He has to want to change within himself. So, I respect and I support the fact that he's honest and that he puts out there, what he believes in his mind and what he, his opinions. But it doesn't mean I condone some of the craziness that he does.
We go back to our live stream, live chat box, and check in with Chris A. Dave, how effective is DHEA and dosage?
Well, DHEA is pretty effective for women in about a 25 to 50 milligrams per day dosage. You got to remember, the adrenal glands make what we call adrenal androgens, DHEA being one of them. In women, they don't really produce testosterone. They don't have testicles. So their androgen production comes from the DHEA, because some of that DHEA can convert to testosterone in their body, in the cells. So women, that's their muscle building hormone, essentially. Boosting that a little bit by 25 to 50 milligrams a day, especially as they get a little older, definitely has an anabolic effect and definitely has a metabolism, boosting effect, because DHEA also has a control over metabolic rate to a certain degree. In men, it definitely works in older men. I remember when my dad was in his 60s and DHEA kind of was big on the market, and I got him to take it, and he noticed the difference. He told me he felt the difference. Then when he got older, we put him on testosterone replacement. But DHEA is potent for men in 100 milligram to 300 milligram per day dosages. But you're not going to see the effects you would from, say, a testosterone replacement shot. So in women, I think it's a little bit more potent.
Dave, let's stick with the Instagram page now and go to Randy Edwards 285. Dave, I work second shift and train at midnight and go to bed around 2 a.m. I have used since 1987. I've always wanted to try Slin, but been afraid of it due to being asleep in the 4-hour window after training. Any thoughts on a protocol?
Well, you don't have to use insulin right after you train. If you're really intent on using insulin, use it earlier in the day while you're eating your meals. What insulin does is it loads, nutrients into the muscle cells. So the best time to have them in the muscle cells is before you train, not after you train. After you train, your body produces tons of insulin if you have an insulinogenic meal, which is high in carbs. Also, your body produces what's called GLUT4 receptors on all the cells after you train. So exercise induces GLUT4 receptor production. What does GLUT4 receptor production do? It enables you to absorb glucose, carbs, without the need for insulin. So you actually are better at absorbing carbohydrates and protein post-workout because of the increase of these GLUT4 receptors. So you don't really need extra insulin post-workout. At least you don't need it exogenously taken. I always tell people that you're better off taking it early in the morning with your breakfast so that you get the benefit of it all day long. So that would be the solution, if you're really intent on using it.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Check out speciesnutrition.com, all new website. And to celebrate the grand opening, if you make any purchases from now through April 8th and use the promo code GRAND20, it is 20% off your purchase. We go back to Twitter and check in with @FitMom82. Dave, is being on 50 milligrams of T3 for 6 months bad? Should I taper off? And what's your opinion on quad injections?
You know, being on Cytomel or T3, which is a active thyroid metabolite, for 6 months is a long time. I probably would recommend tapering off of it, unless you're put on it by a doctor for replacement dosages. If you're doing it for performance enhancement or losing body fat, I think that's an adequate amount of time, or probably even a little too long. As far as quad injections, I don't recommend them. People always ask me, and I hear people tell me, hey, I inject my quads, where should I put it? Don't put it anywhere. Believe me, you get one bad quad injection, you'll never do it again. It usually causes an infection. It always causes swelling. You can do it 100 times in a row and not have a problem, and get one problem, and you know what? You could traumatize the nerves in there. You could get neuropathies and nerve damage. Don't inject the quads. Why? Because there's a ton of blood vessels and a ton of nerves in there, and it's like Russian roulette. You're rolling the dice. Eventually, it's going to come up, and you're going to get a bad shot, and you're going to be miserable.
We go back to the Muscle Central forum on RxMuscle.com. If you're not already a member, you can register for free at RxMuscle.com. This question from Mr. Immensity. Greetings, Dave. We don't usually get those kind of things, but greetings. I've said it many times, but no physique will ever surpass Ronnie in his prime. But I have a different prediction. I think that Ronnie was merely the first of what may come to be called the quote-unquote uber freaks. Such uber freaks represent the absolute pinnacle of what's humanly possible in physique development. Big Ramy is likely the next. As the years go by, it's possible that we'll see such physiques appear with greater frequency as more and more people from around the world pick up weights with the intent to get huge. What do you think?
Well, you know, I didn't think anyone would ever be better than Ronnie Coleman, and when I see Big Ramy now, I'm like, I was wrong. You know, Big Ramy is definitely bigger than Ronnie Coleman. Maybe not with the quality of muscle that Ronnie Coleman had, because he's still only been training about 5 years. But there's something going on there genetically that is beyond the scope of our understanding. Whether he has no myostatin in his body and his body is just growing, you know, from doing anything, remains to be seen. He'd have to go for some testing. I'd like to see what his myostatin content is. Is there a change in evolution? You know, the old X-Man theory, you know, the X-Men said that, you know, eventually men will evolve, they'll mutate, and they'll get all these special powers. Who knows? You know, maybe the future holds bigger, more massive people out there on the horizon. Maybe there has been mutations in the gene code. We don't know. It's kind of cool to speculate, but Big Ramy is a freak among freaks. The thing about bodybuilding is not a very small percentage of the world goes into bodybuilding. So there might be people out there with the genetics who could be even bigger than Ramy that will never be bodybuilders. So, you know, it's kind of like, you know, who's going to go into the sport at that point, and then you find out who these people are. But Big Ramy is exciting. I find him exciting because I think that he's something that we've never seen before, and his potential is unlimited.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. We go back to our Instagram page. Again, you can also chime in on the questions on our Instagram handle @official_RxMuscle. Got a couple of light ones here, Dave. From Dennis17. Dave, what's the secret to lifelong happiness?
Lifelong, you know what? People ask me questions like I'm Father Time or something like that. But you know, the truth is, the secret to happiness is live your passion. Do what you love, and you never work a day in your life. I get yelled at because I never leave the office here because I actually like what I do. And if you like what you do, then it's not work, and you'll be happy. If you do what you hate, you're going to be miserable all the time. And that's just the bottom line. Now, sometimes you have to do stuff that you don't like early in life to get what you want so that you could actually do what you do like. So you can't just say, well, I'm 13, I don't want to go to school anymore, I'm just going to go play video games all day long. You know, that's not smart. I'm talking about what inside you drives you. What is passionate. Like, I know I got into the reptile field recently. I'm into collecting snakes and trying to breed them now. And there are guys that, since they were 8 years old, loved snakes. They had snakes as pets, and they eventually, as they got older, they started breeding them. They turned it into a business, and now they have a multi-million-dollar business breeding reptiles. And they just love their job. They love what they do, and they were able to turn that in. But obviously, they didn't quit school, and they weren't, they were still working regular jobs up until the point where they were able to actually sustain their livelihood full time doing that. And that's what you have to do. You have to nurture what you love. Okay, always keep it. And as bodybuilders, that's what we love. A lot of bodybuilders just nurture that, but always have a balance. Saying, you know what, I might need a job right now, but I'm going to figure a way somehow to take my passion and make it my profession.
We'll stick with the Instagram page. This question from SMC Golf. Dave, what are your top 3 sports to watch? It's a question that I would ask you.
Yeah, good question. I am a football addict. I have to admit it. I sometimes purposely don't allow myself to watch football because once I start, I can't turn it off. I love boxing too. Boxing. I can watch a boxing match anywhere, anytime. It doesn't matter who's boxing, women, men, kids. It doesn't. I enjoy boxing. I don't know. I like to watch people beat each other up. I don't know. It's a little masochistic or sadistic of myself, but I do like it. The MMA is cool. I don't find it as entertaining as boxing. Although when we have a superstar match, it to me it's very entertaining. And you know what? I hate to admit it because I do like baseball too. But I could watch basketball as well. But baseball, I was brought up with it because my dad was a big Yankees fan and Mets fan, and so I've seen a lot of games. And so I'd have to say probably those are the sports. Although, you know what? I love track and field too. So I could watch that, because I was a track and field athlete. So all the sports are about equal, but I do like probably boxing and football would be number 1 and 2.
We go back to the Muscle Central forum now on rxmuscle.com. This question from Phil. Hi, Dave. My wife and I hate your shows and everything that you stand for. Are there long-term effects one should consider when using T3, T4 oral suspension for contest prep for the bikini athlete? Also, any particular substances a woman should avoid when planning for pregnancy in the future? Nolvadex, Clen, Anavar, Nolvadex in particular. Do you train bikini athletes?
Yeah, I have a few bikini athletes that I actually work with. And, look, diet is diet. Bikini athletes nowadays need to get into shape. They need to be conditioned. And it goes back to the same principles of diet and losing body fat. Some people want to make bikini difficult. It's really not a difficult, sport. Get the girls in shape. And if they know how to pose and present themselves on stage, then they're going to do well. There are some bikini competitors that don't use any drugs. There are some that use like some clenbuterol and Cytomel for fat burning. There's really no reason to use anabolics, anabolic steroids as a bikini competitor because you don't need to be big. So I don't know what would be the reason to do that. Although I know some girls that have used a little bit of Anavar here and there. As far as a woman who wants to have kids later in life, most of these compounds will not negatively impact that. It's like a woman who takes birth control. When you're on birth control, you're sterile essentially. You can't get pregnant. But when you stop it, and that's hormonal therapy, your body turns itself back on. Same thing with a lot of these hormonal, therapies. Now, if you're taking anabolic steroids, that obviously is going to throw your menstrual cycle off, and that could take up to 6 months sometimes to come back to normal. But in small amounts, it really shouldn't impact negatively. Like I said, for most bikini competitors, taking a little clenbuterol and Cytomel is probably enough. Maybe an estrogen blocker like Nolvadex is probably safe. And like I said, once you stop these things, your body kind of turns itself back on.
You're watching Ask Dave on rxmuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Before we ask this next question, just to set this up, of course, it was WrestleMania this past weekend. And for those that do not know, Dave does Triple H's diet. So this next question is about Triple H. It comes from our Twitter feed. This question from @TheAuthority. Dave, what was Triple H's protocol for this year's prep? Diet-wise, he looked bigger. Will we ever see the old school Hunter make a comeback?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. First of all, this was probably the best he's looked in recent time. I thought his conditioning was really good. He probably was about 250, or maybe a little bit under, maybe on the day of the event. Like I said, I was happy with his ab, conditioning, and his lower back was pretty tight. Next year for WrestleMania, we're meeting together. We're going to do a full year of prep for WrestleMania. He wants to look the best he's ever been. So I think you're going to be super excited when you see how he looks next year's WrestleMania. This was like kind of a warm-up. Because you got to remember, him and his wife Stephanie are running, along with Vince, the WWE now. He doesn't have the luxury of working out all day and going tanning he's in the office all day and he's working all these shows. It's hard for him to find time to work out and do his training and to get his food in. So this coming year, he's going to make an effort to really, set aside the time to get to the gym and to never not miss workouts and meals. And I think that we're going to see an even crazier Triple H. As far as what he did was, he's a big ketogenic diet guy. He really loves it. We started him out on some carbs, like I do most of my athletes. We do like some alternating days. Some days are low carb, some days are a little higher carb. Always high protein, moderate fat. And that's my protocol. And then what happens is, as we get closer to the event, we cut back the carb days, and he has more protein, fat days. Eventually, I think we only did 2 weeks of full ketogenic diet on him. And once we did that, his body just dries out and gets real tight. And then I fill him up at the end with some carbing up days, usually maybe just the last 2 days, nothing excessive. And it works like a charm. He loves it. He always has good energy. His mental faculties are always there. And this is like a perfect diet for him and his lifestyle.
This next question comes from our Muscle Central forum on rxmuscle.com. Again, if you're not a member, it is free to register. Question from NBA R. Yosef. 2 questions. 1, what's the right way of doing keto diet, what you were just addressing? Is it necessarily meant for me to do a quote-unquote carb night? He says rest day once a week, or is it a mistake? Could you detail the right way? Too much confusing information out there. And then the second is, can you gain muscle while on keto?
Well, you kind of give me a homework assignment, and Johnny knows how I feel about homework assignments. I don't do them, so unless you're hiring me. So I'm not going to go through all the nuances of a ketogenic diet, but the bottom line is it's a high protein, moderate fat diet. Usually you're looking to take in about 1 gram to 1.5 grams of protein per pound that you weigh over the course of a day, divided over 5 or 6 meals. And you're taking in about 0.5 gram of fat per pound that you weigh. So if you're a 200-pound man, you're going to take in 300 grams of protein a day. You're going to take in 100 grams of fat per day divided over your meals. That's the basis of the ketogenic diet. Once a week, you're always going to have a carb up day, or carb up meal, I should say. I call it a cheat meal. Some people call it a refeed meal. Basically, it's 1 meal a week. Usually the last meal of the day is the best time to do it, so you don't continue to cheat. And you have a big meal that has a lot of carbs in it, but always keep the protein in there as well. Don't just eat all junk food. Okay, that's not going to serve you. And if you do this, you'll shock your body and prevent your body from slowing down due to the fact that you're eating very low carbs. That's the premise of the diet. Now, for every person that I work with as individual clients, everyone's body is different, and I cater the diet differently. Some people start with carbs. Some people go straight out. Most of the women go straight to no carbs. I go with them. And some women even go lower. I even give some women days where they get no fats, and they just get vegetables and protein. So there's a lot of nuances to the diet. Once again, I'm going to probably write a book, or at least an ebook about this, so that people that have these questions can figure out how to do it. I'm also looking to, I haven't made the official announcement yet, but I might as well make it here. I'm going to do a guru training course, a 1-day course here in New York. It's going to be $600 per person, a very limited seating, and I'm going to teach people how to be contest prep people, how to write diets for people, how to put supplement stacks together, how to do drug stacks, how to get people to lose weight, gain weight, dial them in the week of a show, diuretics, carbing up, water depletion, all this stuff, all these questions that people have. I'm going to teach you like you have an instruction manual of how to do it. And I think that for people who are interested in this and who, people who are curious as to how to do this and what the process is, this would be a great course to get involved in. And it's going to be a first come, first serve type basis. I'm also trying to set one up in Australia. So for our Australian, I guess you could say viewers out there, you can contact Chris Schmidt. He's going to organize that in Sydney for me.
You're watching Ask Dave on rxmuscle.com. I got a little distracted with that Australia reference, especially with the weather that we've been having here in New York. We go back to our Instagram stream. Again, our Instagram handle is at @official_rxmuscle. This question is a good one. From Ireland, Ciaran Murray. Hi, Dave. Just asking, what's your best advice for maintaining strength while on a cutting diet?
Don't overtrain. I know it sounds very simplistic, but the biggest, I guess you could say, strength drainer of people who are doing too many sets. Okay, when you're on limited nutrients, especially limited carbs, you have limited fuel available. If you train too long and you run out of fuel, you're going to get weak. Okay, and that's going to lead into tomorrow's workout being weakened, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. So don't overtrain. When you're on a contest diet, try to keep your workouts under an hour if possible. I know some workouts go a little over. Try to keep it under an hour. You'll maintain your strength better. Also, don't eliminate fat from your diet. When you cut too much fat out of your diet, it weakens you because fat is the precursors to most of your endogenous steroidal hormone production in your body. And I think a lot of people don't understand that if you don't take in the essential fats, it's just as bad as not taking in enough protein.
We go back to our live stream, live chat boxes question from Hugh Moen. Dave, we've all read about Kevin Levrone, who went 7 weeks pre-Olympia with just fish and veggies. In a real world, what would happen to a bodybuilder if he did this nowadays? Or was it just that he was a complete freak?
No, Levrone did the first ketogenic diet. I mean, matter of fact, a lot of people don't realize this, but Kevin will tell you. I just talked to him on the phone the other day, which is ironic, but he's been calling me a lot. I don't know, recently. He goes in spurts like that. We're going to try to get him on Iron Debate. I'm working on him, so I think he'll be a great guest. But Kevin, and I worked together in 1996 when he beat Flex Wheeler at the Arnold Classic. And I had him on a ketogenic diet. And when I got there and we started talking about diet, because I actually drove down to Maryland to meet with him to go over everything, he kind of liked that. He said that's something that he kind of did in the past. He did very well on that. I just made sure he ate a little bit more fat in his diet, than he was eating to make sure he didn't lose size. And that show, he actually came in bigger than he had ever been in the past. It was the biggest and the best he had ever looked. And, I attribute it to the fact that we boosted his calories, but not from carbs, from fat. And that's important because his strength was through the roof. I was 315 pounds, and he was 6 weeks out from the show, all depleted. And we did a leg workout, and we both squatted 6 plates for like 6 or 7 reps. And he should have been way weaker than me at that point, and he wasn't.
Interesting question here from Adam James Cooper on the Instagram stream. Dave, what are your thoughts on GLUT4 translocation and a different subject, loose skin? Besides surgery, are there any other ways, peptides, etc., that can help?
What a random bunch of questions put together. GLUT4 receptors we talked about earlier. When you work out, okay, and you weight train or resistance train, even do cardio at high intensity, your body will produce these GLUT4 receptors following the workout on all your cells. That enables your cells to absorb glucose without the need for insulin. What does that do? That means it reduces insulin output. If insulin output is low, there's less of a chance of storing calories as fat. So that's a good time to eat a nice carb load post-workout because chances are you're not going to store any of that as I guess you could as body fat, unless your glycogen stores are already filled up. Usually that's unlikely after a workout because usually after a workout you've depleted them. So that's question one. Question two is loose skin is a tough subject. People have different genetics for losing body fat. I know guys that are 400 pounds, they lose weight, they don't have any loose skin. Very rare. And then I know people that are 250 pounds, they lose 50 pounds and they have loose skin and they got to get surgery. So once you got that loose skin that's just hanging there lifeless, so to speak, without that good collagen in there, more than likely it's going to have to be surgically removed if you want to really tighten up down there. It's just the way to go about it. It's just the way it is. There's nothing you can really do about it. There's no supplements you could take. Obviously, you want to take enough, protein in while you're dieting. You don't want to just starve yourself. That obviously is going to create more loose skin. But assuming you're following a good quality diet and you're in a bodybuilding lifestyle, if you have loose skin, it's more than likely going to have to be surgically taken off.
We go back to the Muscle Central forum on rxmuscle.com. Question from iFabian. So I wanted to take his question. He chimes in every week. Dave, 2 quick questions. One, should you cycle vanadyl sulfate? I've read an article stating there is some toxicity when using longer than 6 weeks. Therefore, I've used it for like 6 weeks at 40 mg per day. I did notice a lot more vascularity, so would like to use it again. The second part, there's a lot of people who say it's the kidneys breaking down Anavar rather than the liver. Hence, very little stress on the liver. What is the truth?
Vanadyl sulfate potentially can have some toxic buildup in the body, so you probably should cycle it. 6 weeks on, 4 weeks off is probably a good estimate. As far as, what was the second question?
Second question was about the kidneys breaking down Anavar, right?
The liver breaks down all drugs. Okay, the kidneys don't break anything down. All the kidneys do is filter the blood. So think about that. Think about the kidneys as a sieve almost. It takes out the junk and eliminates it from the body. But it doesn't physiologically or chemically break anything down. The liver is the chemistry set, as I always say. That's where the drugs that you ingest or the toxic biochemicals go and get broken down, released into the gut, which you then eliminate it from the body. So that's why fiber supplement, by the way, is so important, because when your body is breaking down these toxic byproducts, fiber binds them up and pulls them out of the body. Otherwise, they can get reabsorbed sometimes, so that's not a good thing. I was actually talking to a new client of mine who's a very, very popular chiropractor in Texas, and he was telling me about coffee enemas. And a lot of times when they treat cancer patients, you know, the alternative medicine people will treat them with raw fruits and vegetables, mostly raw vegetables, juicing drinks, and to enable their bodies to detoxify themselves. But with them, what they do is they give them these coffee enemas, because the coffee enemas open up the portal vein in the liver, allowing this gunk to come out of the liver. Because what can happen is if you're releasing too many toxins and the liver is breaking down all this stuff and it gets backed up into the liver, you know, you reabsorb all this stuff and you become even more toxic. So, you know, there's a lot of alternative therapies out there on the market that people employ. The bottom line is that the kidneys filter, the liver detoxifies.
Dave, we go back to our live chat, our live stream, live chat box. And here's a question that probably many are wondering. One had the courage to ask, and it is Peter NPP. Dave, is there any protocol or natural supplement that helps with ejaculation force? I see most porn stars do wonders. If I double the dose on Testalize, will that work, or should I buy more zinc? And our producer, just for the record, said that was an epic question.
You know, I remember reading, it's probably out there still, I remember seeing a supplement called Ejaculoid, and I thought it was really, really funny. You know, look, most of those things don't work. The only thing that's going to increase, you know, the ejaculate volume is production of more sperm. You know, now some people produce more genetically. In other words, some people's prostate will remember, there's three organs, so to speak, in the male body that contribute to, you know, ejaculate that comes out of your body: the prostate, the testicles, and the vas deferens, I believe. So all three of those can produce certain amounts of fluid. The most fluid is produced by the prostate. So if you have a prostate that just cranks out a lot of fluid, you'll have more volume. If you want thicker, you know, stuff coming out of there because you want to get someone pregnant, meaning more sperm per square inch, so to speak, that's testicles. And the best way to increase that would be to take some kind of natural testosterone boosting agent. That's why Testalize is really ideal, because Testalize decreases estrogen, decreases DHT, increasing natural endogenous testosterone levels. The more natural endogenous testosterone you produce in your testicles, the more sperm that gets produced in your testicles. It's just a cause and effect type of thing. So it can increase your ejaculate volume. Absolutely. You give it a shot.
Watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. We have time for one more question, and this question is from our Instagram handle. The question is from Evan_Mensing. Dave, why are supplement companies more concerned with the number of followers you have on social media and not the numbers you put up in meets or the placing in shows? It seems as if quantity trumps quality in today's world.
It's a brave new world, as we like to say out there, and marketing techniques have changed. You know, back in the day, supplement companies put ads in magazines, and they saw that directly translated into sales in the supplements that they sold, because that was the only place to advertise. That was the only place to really promote your products. There was no internet. So people would read magazines, myself included. I would scour these magazines, I'd read the ads, and that's what really influenced me a lot on what to buy. Now, Bill Phillips came out with Muscle Media 2000 back in the late 90s, and that was a great magazine because not only did they have ads, but they also had articles telling you what the supplements did and which were good and which were not good. Nowadays, you know, companies don't advertise in magazines anymore because no one reads magazines. It's a waste of money. So where do you put your money? Well, you can advertise on places like RX Muscle, and that's obviously some companies do. But they also realize that social media is so important because everyone has got their phone attached to their face, looking at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and people who have large social media followings, in other words, people who follow them, it's like the old magazine ads. If you got a guy who's got 1 million followers and he tells them to take supplement B, they're probably going to take it. And so that's a valuable tool. It's sad that a guy who wins the Mr. Olympia doesn't have as much clout as he used to, because there's really no place to showcase them. I'm sure that's why Phil Heath said, you know what, I got this crazy social media following, I might as well start my own company, because people are going to take whatever I tell them to do anyway. So the whole marketing, I guess, strategies have changed because of the internet and social media.
Speaking of high social media numbers and top performers, we get the I guess, mesh of that tomorrow night on a special Heavy Muscle TV. Sadiq Hadzovic, who just came off his Arnold Sports Festival win in the physique division. He has really one of the better social media presences in the entire IFBB world. He's going to be live in studio tomorrow night, 8 p.m. right here on RxMuscle.com. You're not going to want to miss that. Dave, we actually do have one more question. It's a good question, so we want to
Before you get to that question, I want to just mention one more thing about the TV show. Not only is Sadiq Hadzovic going to be here, we also have a couple other great stars coming in.
Well,
Sarah LeBlanc.
Sure.
We have Lyman Daly, who did the old Max Rep comic strip in Muscular Development magazine years ago. He's going to actually do a spontaneous drawing on the air for us, and we're going to find out about his history in the industry and how he thinks it's evolved. And he was a terrific artist. Johnny's got plenty of great images that he's drawn over the years, stuff that you guys will recognize and probably get a nice laugh at. Also, Larry the Bridge Jumper will be in to show us his most recent physique transformation that he's made. A lot of people might remember him. He jumped off the Verrazano Bridge. He lived, old high school friend of mine, and he's back in studio. He said he was going to be back, and he's going to look his best, and he's going to take his shirt off and pose down for us. I think we also have one more guest. Who else is calling in?
We have Lorenzo Ross, who's going to be live in studio.
Right.
And we're working on a couple of other guests, but I mean, that is a
big show.
Packed
big
show.
show.
Again, 8 p.m. tomorrow night on RxMuscle.com. Dave, this question is from King M. Do you think hydrolyzed whey is better than isolated to take before cardio to stop muscle loss?
I would not take anything before cardio, because a lot of these whey isolates and hydrosylates can convert to glucose in the blood, gluconeogenesis. That's the process where the body converts amino acids into glucose. And then your body can use the glucose for fuel while you're doing cardio, and that's not good because we want to burn stored body fat when we're doing cardio. So never do your pre- or post-workout shake before cardio. Always do it after cardio. You're not going to lose any muscle as long as you're not doing cardio that's too high intensity. If you're if you're getting on the stepper or you're getting on the treadmill and you're running, you're going to burn muscle no matter what you take before you do it, okay? The bottom line is, if you're trying to burn body fat and improve your physique look, do lower intensity cardio to ensure that all the fuel that you're using is fat, because that's going to be the goal or the object of the exercise. Doing more, I guess, intensity, in essence, trying to burn more calories is stupid, because if you're burning the wrong type of calories, then you're not accomplishing what you set out to do. You're just wasting or spinning your wheels, literally.
That is going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com. Again, go to speciesnutrition.com, promo code GRAND20. It is the grand opening of the all-new speciesnutrition.com. 20% off, $250 purchase will get you a free Species gym bag. $125 to $249 will get you a Species cinch bag. Dave?
One more thing. We do these shows tirelessly every single week. We try to get them in. Sid and I donate our time to this. We do this effortlessly because I know you guys, the viewers out there, love having your questions answered. You love being enlightened to knowledge. Do us a favor. Go on the Instagram page, official_RX Muscle. Go to our Facebook page and like us. Follow us. Show us your support, so at least I know that what we're doing out there is being well received and you guys appreciate it, because I appreciate you and everything you do to support the sport.
Once again, tomorrow night, a special episode of Heavy Muscle TV right here on RxMuscle.com. Sadiq Hadzovic, Lorenzo Orozco live in studio. We're also going to be joined by Lyman Daly, Sarah LeBlanc from Louisiana, and Larry the Bridge Jumper. RxMuscle.com, 8 p.m. tomorrow night. We will see you then. Have a good night.